Good evening and welcome to the February 3rd, 2022 FY 2023 proposed budget work session. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to turn off any wireless communication devices to avoid interfering with our meeting. Also, we will be using Zoom's Spanish interpretation services this evening. Please listen to the following announcement regarding interpretation services during tonight's meeting. Would you please play the recording?
I'm having some technical difficulties with that recording right now. And our interpreters are actually already in the Zoom link. So hopefully our Spanish speaking population will know to click the globe at the bottom of the screen for Spanish interpretation.
So will they be reading it?
No, ma'am. They're unable. They're not audible. They're only audible when our Spanish speaking population can click the globe at the bottom of their screens.
So we won't have a Spanish interpretation tonight?
Yes, ma'am. We do have Spanish interpretation once our Spanish speaking population clicks the globe at the bottom of their screens.
Okay, so then that means we'll just go past the recording. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well then, Ms. Berkeley, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Adam Stafford.
Here.
Mrs. Ahmed.
Here.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Here.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Saran Ruiz. Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Here.
Mr. Montero.
Here.
Mr. Murray. Mrs. Queen.
Present.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Valentine.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Present.
And Dr. Miller.
Present. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? If so, then may I have a motion to approve it?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it and the agenda is adopted. Now we will move into the budget discussion. This portion of the agenda is designated just for the budget discussion. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Golson. Do you have any general opening remarks you would like to provide before we begin our discussion of the various sections of the proposed budget?
Yes, and good evening. Tonight you will ask questions of three divisions: Chief of School Leadership and Support, Dr. Coley; Human Resources, which is represented by Dr. Murphy; and our Chief of Staff, Mr. Dickerson. Each group has approximately 35 minutes for questions to ensure that we conclude by 7 p.m. in time for the public comment portion of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Golson. Before we proceed, I would like to remind my colleagues that during the first round of questions and responses, you will receive 5 minutes. Then you will receive 3 minutes for the second round. Staff will capture any questions that are not answered tonight, and those answers will be provided to all board members. Now we will move into the Division of School Leadership. Do you have any, are there any questions, board members? No questions under Division of School Leadership. Great.
Dr.
Then
Miller, I had my hand up. Sorry.
Okay, I didn't see it. Thank you, Vice Chair Williams.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Coley for her leadership of this department. I see it every day, or whenever I'm working with the schools, the results of the work that we've discussed over the many years when it comes to providing support to all of our schools, whether they're the traditional neighborhood schools, our specialty schools, our schools that are non-traditional. And so I really appreciate all of your leadership and what I've seen transpire over the years. And so for those that are new to the school system and some of our board members that are new to the board, I would love for you to sort of give a quick overview as to your service and how you interact with our schools and providing them the support that they need.
Thank you for that question, Board Chair Williams. I appreciate it. I always love to be given opportunities to share with all what the work of this division is, which is ultimately school support and leadership. We serve as a direct connection to the work of the schools itself. Many divisions, many departments within the division, to include the division of the Department of Student Services, Family Engagement. Student Services itself is, as you are aware, quite a large department. The Community Schools Department is a part of this division. And of course, our schools, area offices, area schools, area office schools, Area 1, Area 2, and Area 3. Area 1 are those schools that are led by the Associate Superintendent, Dr. Laster. That's all elementary schools. Area 2 schools led by the Associate Superintendent, Dr. Curry. Area 3 schools led by the Associate Superintendent, Dr. Merrill. The Department of Student Services led by Associate Superintendent, Ms. Faison. Dr. Jackson leads the work of our family partnerships. And Dr. Williams-Horton leads the work of the Community Schools Office. And ultimately, with each of these departments that I have referenced, they all provide support and guidance and leadership to our schools while ultimately making sure and ensuring that we are ensuring academic achievement for all students.
Thank you, Dr. Coley. And there's just one other point of clarification that I'd like to hear from you. In particular, one of our newer departments that fall under you are community schools. There's always some misinterpretation of what community schools is. It's different from a neighborhood school that resides in the neighborhood. Community schools provide what type of service, and how can we benefit from the community school services?
Currently, we have 77 schools that are deemed as community schools. And with each of those schools, they are provided wraparound supports to ensure academic achievement for our students. That is supports to our students, as well as supports to our families. The work itself is governed by adherence to the 6 pillars. The 6 pillars that clearly define the work of what ultimately a community school should be. It is driven by, and the schools are identified by the poverty levels. So each of those schools are driven by those poverty levels. We began some years ago with a few schools, maybe 20, then we went to 40. Now we currently have 77. And I'm happy to say that with the structures that exist in each of those schools, they include the provision of mental health support, community school coordinators within each of those schools. They are provided with opportunities that are led so ultimately by Dr. Williams-Horton. And I'll defer to her so she can give additional context as to what that work itself is.
Thank you, Dr. Coley, and thank you to our board members for having me today to discuss the wonderful work that our community school coordinators are doing each and every day to ensure that our students and our families thrive. As we talk about community schools and we talk about the wraparound services that are provided to our students and families, we're thinking about what our families talk about and what they need when we refer to our needs assessment. We did a needs assessment about 3 years ago, and we're currently in the mix of completing our needs assessment. But our families identified that they needed food. Food was one of our barriers and one of our insecurities. Board member Pamela Boozer-Strother, she serves on our district steering committee, and that's something that we worked with. And so our community school coordinators work on having food distribution drive-bys for our families. And we've been fortunate enough to work with Bowie Produce and some of our our other local vendors to ensure that we bridge the gap between break down that barrier of food insecurity for our families. Another wonderful thing that happens with our community school coordinators is that we've been able to work with one of our other partners with the University of Maryland Law Center, Cary Law Center, and the Eviction Prevention Program to offer law services to our families. Some of our families expressed in our needs assessment that they needed services, understanding their rights, because housing is a barrier. Transitional housing is a barrier, and them knowing their rights and the services that they deserve to have. So the Eviction Prevention Program, they get free law services. And with that, they've been able to understand their rights and take some of their landlords to court and benefit from those services. So those are just a couple of things that we are proud of in the Office of Community Schools. I could talk about them all day, but I just wanted to highlight some of the things and the great work that our community schools have done in just the short amount of time that we've existed.
And
Thank
if
you,
I could
Dr.
add
Coley.
something else to that, Board Chair.
Well, yeah, during my second round, because I think my 5
Okay,
minutes are up.
I heard the
So,
buzzer.
yes, thank you so much, Dr. Coley and Dr. William Horton.
You're welcome.
And I will put myself in queue for round 2.
Are there any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I see,
Okay, I see
board
two-
member.
I
Yes.
see 3 hands, but I can't, one says Sonia Wing. I can't see who it is.
Okay, well, if you don't mind, I will call up. The
Thank
next
you.
person that I see is board member Shayla Adams Stafford.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much to Dr. Goldson and her team for coming here this evening and preparing this presentation for us. I wanted to first begin by just asking, and forgive me if this was already shared, but my questions were around the alternative school redesign, and it says for us to look at the PowerPoint to gather more details, and I don't see that PowerPoint in our materials for today.
The PowerPoint was provided about a week or so ago. And with each question that was asked, there was reference to the information that had been provided previously to answer your questions.
Okay, it's saying the PowerPoint for 2/3/22. So that's the PowerPoint that we're to use for today.
That is correct. That's where the questions, that's the place by which the questions themselves, the responses, and the references to the document itself was referenced.
Okay, thank you. If someone from the board staff could resend that to me, because for some reason I don't have that in my inbox. Maybe that was an oversight on my part. My question was around the involvement of parents and community members in the decision for the restructuring. So on page 64, I asked, about whether parents were included in this decision, and you stated that parents were not included in this decision. And I just wanted to see if someone could elaborate on that a bit more, given some of the feedback that we've received from community members that are, have a lot of concerns about the consolidation of these schools. So
thank you for that question. I appreciate it. We did not, and I think I saw that question referenced by Board Member Mickens-Murray as well. And with respect to that, we had not involved and included our parents in the actual process for the proposal. What we wanted to first do, as done previous with most proposals, share our work, share our expectations, share our plan with the board. Once that particular proposal has been approved, one of our next steps is to ensure that all of our parents are apprised to the information as well. I'd like to include that what we did find, and it may be such that we have to provide opportunities for our parents sooner than later as well. Because even with some of our team members, some of our staff, some of our school staff members, some of our students as well, they had been and heard about this actual proposal, but some of the information that they all had been provided was not necessarily accurate to what we were proposing. So what we have begun to do just this week, the team actually went out to some of the schools as recent as actually last week to actually share with them and to dispel any misconceptions and misperceptions that they had of what the program itself would offer. So we did not and have not spoken to parent groups just yet, but we have moved forward in speaking to school teams and staff alike.
Well, I will say that that is concerning. Just that, you know, the community was not engaged at the onset of such a major shift and change. And just as a representative of families in that district, it has definitely been challenging. I wanted to just see if you could break down for me a little bit regarding the use of Edgenuity in the new model. One of the components of the program in which students really thrive is around having that small classroom environment and also having that that in-person support with an adult. And so within this new model, I'd like to know how Edgenuity would be used, and will staffing remain the same?
Edgenuity will still be used, Ms. Adams Stafford, in addition to our curriculum from our school system. We'll be using that as well. So in response to your question, yes, we will continue to use Edgenuity.
Okay.
As one of the instructional sources.
Okay. And in regards to class size and staffing,
thank you for that question as well. Our class sizes in many instances are as low as 3 students per classroom. There are some that may have 7 or 8, but ultimately, as proposed within the proposal, we want to increase opportunities so that we fill more seats within each of these respective programs. Right now, basically of the seniors in Prince George's County, 98% of our seniors are in our comprehensive schools.
I can't talk right
and
now.
2% are in our alternative schools. That's seniors. With respect to the population itself, our alternative schools are currently only serving 1% of our student population. So we certainly want to advance opportunities for increased awareness of what each program design is to offer and provide additional supports within each respective program.
Thank you. And maybe on the second round, I'd just like to dive deeper into that particular question, just to know about the student to teacher ratio within the redesign. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Can you see it now, Dr. Miller?
No, I can't
Okay.
see who it is.
Okay. Thank you, Board Member Adam Stafford. Board Member Queen.
Thank you so very much. Good evening to everyone. Happy Black History Month. See, I'm representing Black History Month today. Thank everyone who is watching and who is participating in this budget important work session. I know we got all these pages and we ask all these questions, but it's nothing like getting things out in the open, and I'm a real down the earth, transparent person. So let me just be real and be me. I'm gonna be honest, trying to print all these papers and look at all of these questions. In reality, it doesn't really answer some of the questions. And even to say, as it was stated to board members, Shayla Adams Stafford, it's a PowerPoint presentation. We are the what and you guys are the how. I think it should have been given to her. I think it was very disrespectful the way it did. I think her questions need to be answered. And if the PowerPoint presentation need to be shown, this is what this budget work section is for. So first of all, we need to get it done and get it shown. Second of all, when we come back and we talk about the schools, I have a very concern with shutting any school down in our county, because we gotta make sure, I say this all the time, that we have equity and quality across the board. The reason why we have 9 districts in Prince George's County is to be even, 3 in Central, 3 in North, and 3 in South. For us to even as a board, a school board, and no offense, Dr. Golson, as CEO is here to even think about cutting something and only putting it in North and Central, or putting it in South and Central, or even putting it in South and North. It is so wrong. We have people in North, Central, and South here in Prince George's County, and it is for us to represent each part of that county. We have a bus issue, and even if kids even didn't have to catch a bus and they were responsible for getting there on their own, we need to make sure that they're able to get there the same amount of time. I should not, if a school was closing down, and this is not central, I know it's north, but if a school is closing down north, the people in north should not have to drive 20 miles to get to a school that should be in north that they can get to within 5 miles. Let's be realistic. Stop all that bull crap. It is our job to make sure that every student succeeds in Prince George's County. It is our job to make sure that every tax dollar that is spent from every taxpayer from north, central, and south is spent equally across the board. So that means we need a school in north, central, and south that are representing these students. There is no and ifs and buts about it. We have to realize that we are charged to do a job, and our job is to make sure that we are serving the taxpayers of Prince George's County. 60%, and I'm gonna remind you guys, 60% of the county budget pay you guys salary, okay? It pay us to represent. Let's start representing. I don't need anyone to answer my question, but I need you guys to be realistic and realize it is not about any of you or your decisions. It's about us making sure that we are giving the taxpayers what they deserve. And what they deserve is equality and equity across the board, a school that is representing their district where we have diversity. We have kids in every part of this county that need schools like CBC, that need schools like Tall Oaks, and that need schools like Annapolis Road Academy. And it is up to us to make sure that we're giving them. That is what our core value, and that's what our vision is at Prince George's County Public School. So all of this other stuff, I don't really care the reasons why all of these documents you expect me to read, because you guys put it together. The kids tell it all. I don't care what you say. I believe in putting kids first. And I believe a child tell it all. When I see children succeed, when I see these children making a difference, when I know it is touching the life of our future generation, that tells it all. I could not care if it was 5 of them. If we're able to say one child, reach one, everybody reach one, it makes a difference. And that is our job here at Prince George's County Public School. That's my time for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Queen. Board Member Mickens-Murray.
Thank you, Vice Chair Williams. Dr. Coley, I think I see it a little bit different from my colleagues, because when I looked at your graph, when I looked at your chart clarified to me your program and the services that you intend to provide. I understand that you are changing the brick and mortar place, but what I see in this chart, and I commend you guys for the in-depth time you took to put this document together. And I would suggest, not only for my colleagues, but for the community, to go to Board Docs and look at that portion, because it's clear. And it's also saying to me that you are aligning your recommendations to the draft MSDE alternative education guidance. So I appreciate all of that. Now, I also think that one thing that would help everybody understand a little bit better is if you would take the time now to provide definitions of asynchronous, whatever that word is, and the synchro, the different, say the words and then give us the definition. Because I think this is key to us understanding what you are trying to do with the program.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's actually the offering of in-person versus online learning. That basically sums it up. In-person learning versus online learning. Does that help clear it up?
Yes, but you're using a combination. And I think if I'm wrong, you can correct me. I think what I'm understanding is that with equity, you're looking at the child and you're trying to put the best resources together for that child.
Absolutely.
It's not about equity at this point. It's about what does this child need to make this child successful in our learning environment.
Absolutely. That is correct.
Okay, and then go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, I was just going to add, I think you're tailoring it. See, so I think words matter. And I think for me, I am not an educator, but I understand. So I think it's clarification
Yes.
that we need. And the simpler you can make the language, I think it would make it easier for folks to understand, because you guys have done a lot of work. I mean, I can see the work.
Thank you.
So for me, I'm appreciating that. So if, and I was gonna ask the ingenuity question, because I saw it here.
Yes.
And I wanted you to clarify that. So once again, I also appreciate what you're doing for the middle school, the 6th to 8th graders, because I've always been concerned about losing middle schoolers. So once again, however you can make it simpler, because right now I think it's complex sort of in your lingo. You need to put it in the average person's lingo who's going to attend your school.
Thank you for that. And we certainly will make modifications to your suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Board Member Mickens-Murray. Seeing no hands. No, Dr. Miller, did you have something to add? I'm sorry. I see no more hands for round one.
No, I'm good. And I'd like to also compliment Dr. Coley and her team on the work they've done to put this document together. And I concur with Board Member Mickens-Murray in terms of putting some of the language more in a layman's term so that it can be better understood what the essence of what they're trying to convey to the public in terms of how the funding will be allocated for those programs. So with that, the second round, did you have something to say, Board Member Vice Chair Williams?
Yeah, I will wait, but we do have a couple hands that have been raised for round two. Would you like for me to read those names?
Yes, because I'm only getting the number 3. It's not telling me who.
Okay. Next up is Board Member Adam Stafford for round 2. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that I did not receive the presentation that others are using this evening. And so it's really unfortunate, but I'm going to have to go ahead and ask my questions again to receive that information. It's not in my inbox. So please, if you could explain for me, what will be the staff allocation with a consolidated model? So will there be the same amount of staff in this new model that you're proposing?
Thank you for that question. There will be adjustments to the staffing, not many. However, there will be some adjustments made to the seats.
So what would
because there will be I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Because there will be increased seats for students based upon each school's, state rated capacity. And Dr. Merrill can give you additional context as it relates to how we've changed the structure with regard to the staffing and students.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what, in terms of the student to teacher ratio, what will be the student to teacher ratio?
What we do not want to occur is to increase anything above 15. We recognize that a small setting for students matters. As I said previously, in some of our schools currently, we have some that have 3 students in a classroom, some that have 7. They have some that have 8, but those are extremely small classrooms. And we want to give more students opportunities in those places where there remain available seats.
Okay, so I guess my question is, in terms of cost savings, I'm trying to understand in terms of, what is the relative opportunity cost of closing these 2 schools in terms of cost savings, if we're going to increase the amount of students per classroom and the use of Edgenuity. Because, in my opinion, the value of the school is worth more than whatever savings we may accrue, because these students in their graduation keep students within our school system so that they do not drop out, and they also add to our graduation rate. So
thank you for that, because what you just asked, Ms. Adam Stafford, is something that I can also, Dr. Mara and I can give you additional context with that. But I also I'm hoping that our students are listening too, because at no time have we ever intended to take anything away from our students. What we are intending to do is to enhance supports. I was so glad to hear from the voices of our students last week, because in hearing from our students, I met with the team and I said, are we on point with what they're saying? And that let us know that we needed to get out, and we also are planning opportunities to go out and to speak to students. So students are clear that we're not taking anything away from them. We're actually enhancing it, because when this program design began in around 1989, it was to get those students, and you say you did not get the document, so I'll give you some clarity. Did you get that document?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So our student teacher ratio would not be beyond 15. It could be less. But right now, we certainly understand that more than 2 or 3 students in some classrooms are in need of the services that we're providing.
Thank you, Dr. Coley.
Thank you.
Time is up for Board Member Adam Stafford's second round. Next up is Board Member Belinda Queen with her round 2. Board Member Queen.
I'm here.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much. Okay, I hear echo. Thank you so very much, Dr. Coley. It's me, you know me.
Yes, Ms. Queen.
I'm very passionate. So it's not your program. You know the program has worked. We know the program has worked. It has worked. The kids testify the program is working, and we know you guys can get the program and even make it do better. So it's not about the program. It's not about what you have done. It's about the point of cutting the program. So can you explain to me, why would we cut a program in one part of our county and not have it where it's across the board in every part of our county? I think that's, to me, is more important than anything, to make sure that each kid is able to get access to the, that's what I need to understand, because to me, I keep hearing say, excuse my house phone for me. I keep hearing, I heard Board Member Sheila Adams say cost savings. And I'm gonna be honest to you guys, it's not about cost savings when it comes to a child succeeding in Prince George's County Public School, because if we don't pay now as taxpayers, we're gonna pay later. We're gonna end up taking care of that child. So let's stop thinking now about cost saving. The cost savings is for us to take care of them now, so we won't have to be paying later with having non-productive citizens who ain't taxpayers. But if we pay now, we won't be paying later. If we invest in them now, we won't have to pay later. So my question is, why would we cut it out of one part of our county and not have it equally across the board?
We're serving all students, as was shared previously, and in the documents that we have provided. There will be northern, southern, central location to address the needs of our students. We're providing equitable opportunities for all. We never went into this thinking that it would be for some and not for all. This is the data itself shows currently that more students are in need of the type of services that we intend to offer them. That is why with we're talking about a building. We're not talking about closing. I want to make that clear. We may be changing the structure of one of the sites, but we're not talking about taking away from any student. Prince George's County Public Schools has a lot to offer for all. And what we are doing is expanding the work that is current. And quite frankly, Ms. Queen, the work that we are providing now in each of our settings needs to be enhanced. We need to move with the flow. We need to provide, the students last week were phenomenal in that they shared with us what they want to see. Now, at one of the schools in particular that you referenced and that Ms. Adam Stafford has referenced, it is CBC. One of the students, and I appreciated the opportunities where our students were sharing with us that they need to work. And I get that, we understand that. And that is one of the things that we will be offering at each of these sites, flexible scheduling. Not just during the day, we will be providing for students an opportunity as well to engage in instruction in the evening, should that be their need. Also, we're directly connected when you talk about equity. We're talking about one thing now, proposal for this particular program that we're proposing. But in all of our schools, comprehensive or alternative, we have given priority to the provision of mental health supports and other supports that are going to ensure the academic excellence for all of our students. This is just one venue. This program itself was never designed for a student to be there forever. However, should they choose, they may. but it is such that we use each student's situation and provide for them a setting where they can soar and we can have relationships with them, hear from them, and develop needs according to the data and according to what they tell us. So
Thank you, Dr.
we're
Coley.
not talking about taking away anything. We're talking about enhancing.
Thank you for that
Thank
clarification.
you, Dr. Coley.
You're quite welcome.
Central and South. I just wanted to make sure that we clarify that it is in every part of our county. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Coley. Thank you, Board Member Queen.
I see.
Dr. Miller?
Oh, no, I was getting ready to call on you. I see your hand and I'm in my computer now. I'm able to see Board Member Mickens Murray. Her hand is up.
Which one are you calling on first? Chair?
Mickens Murray.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add, Dr. Coley, you know, sometimes we're not good about bragging about ourselves, but you guys are also going to provide transportation for these students. That is also in that document that I saw. I want to say to the students, we care about you and we're not going to do anything to hurt a child. I need every student to understand. I heard every child that testified last week, the week before, and I will listen to them tonight. But I can promise them, just from what I have read, I think it's going to be better. It may be delivered in a different way, but I really believe the wraparound services that you guys have identified, I think it's going to be better. So I just wanted to offer that there will be transportation. Thank you.
Or Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. So I just wanted to follow up on two things really quickly. One, to comment on the community-based classrooms as one of the opportunities that we provide our students. With many of our specialty programs, we have challenges with letting our community know what we have to offer. One of the things that I heard from the students last week was that they didn't even know that this opportunity was available. And so the more that we're able to communicate the availability of not just this program, but all of our programs that we offer our students, and I believe that we will know, one, how many seats we need for those programs that our students really want to get into, because you know we have the wait list issue and all that stuff with the lottery and all that. But we will also then know how many students need to fill those seats that are vacant. We have many programs that go unfilled because students and parents are not aware of all of the great opportunities that we have in the school system. And this is why this part of our year, when we're going over the budget, is so important, because you will find in the first portion of the budget a listing of all the programs that are available, the locations that they're at, and the one good thing that not one good thing, the new feature that's in our budget book is the fact that you include how students can get admitted into the program, whether it's lottery, application, and things like that. So I really appreciate this budget book. As you see, I go through this budget book every year with a fine-tooth comb, so I appreciate that. And so I just wanted to just say, please communicate this program more to our community, so that those people that need not only this CBC program, but also our alternative schools, just so that they know that it's available. But back to the community school program, I just have a comment. What I see the community schools program is for is we always talk about the fact that our students, when they leave our schoolhouse, sometimes the challenges with their academics is a result of what happens outside of our schoolhouse. These community schools are the support or bridge for those students that need that extra support outside of our schoolhouse. And so I appreciate that. And I love the fact that we have increased the number of schools that are in need. And you mentioned earlier that it's based on income of those communities. Well, I am so looking forward to us continually increasing the numbers of community schools, because in my district and in a couple other districts that are on the border of Prince George's County and Howard, we don't get the benefit of them directly. So I'm still advocating for more schools, but until then, if we could borrow some of those services for those individuals that need it in my schools, I would love to be able to, send them to the community school for that opportunity, because we do have some income challenged families in District 9. And if it is allowable, are they able to access those community school programs through another school? Is that possible?
Dr. Williams-Horton?
So thank you, Dr. Coley. What I will say is that we don't want any of our students in Prince George's County Public Schools to not have access to any wraparound services if needed. But if you were, or if a school were to contact us, we will make sure that we connect them with the correct resources available. We have a great relationship with one of our partners, the Department of Social Services in Prince George's County. And when we connect families with them, they're not necessarily a community school. So we have relationships with them. And we also have relationships with other partners that if families need support, we can connect them with that. But I also want to incorporate, we don't work in a silo. One of my colleagues, Elizabeth Faison, is here as well, the Associate Superintendent of Student Services. She and I collaborate and we talk and we work closely together to support the students in Prince George's County Public Schools. So I would like to pass it on to her to talk about how we can support students here in Prince George's County if they need support as well. Ms. Faison?
Thanks, Ingrid. One of the things that I would say as a big resource that's available in our community schools, that is also available in our non-community schools, and that is our mental health clinicians. And so you've heard our county talk about the fact that we expanded from 93 schools last year to 144 schools this year. Right now, we have 132 schools that are fully staffed with a mental health clinician, and we therefore have 8 vacancies that we are working on expeditiously to have providers to fill. One of the things that we've noted, and we've collected some data most recently, we've been able to see the counseling services that have been done across the county for those 67 schools, in addition to the 77 schools that are community schools. And so what we're looking at is the classroom observations that are done, the parent workshops, the workshops for staff. We know our staff need support and information on how to best service the students that are coming into our buildings. We've also partnered with Sante Group, and that's one of the organizations that comes into the school system to assist with our students that are in crisis. And so what I did want to finally say is our school counselors and our psychologists provide counseling supports and mental health supports and social emotional supports to our students. Our clinicians add an additional layer. Before our clinicians were in our buildings, our counselors would refer a student out to a community person. And so with this model, we really have been able to bring that community resource in-house. And so we do have a mental health presentation to give to you in March, and we look forward to adding more information on that topic at that time.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that, because, we're seeing the results of mental health challenges, because at this moment, and someone made it really clear, and I thought it was a really good statement, we're living in a time of mental trauma. And that the result of that, we're seeing all of these mental health challenges that we're dealing with. And so I appreciate that. And thank you for clarifying the access of, families that are in my district, that we don't have any community schools in District 9 yet, but we're working on it. I'm excited that we're growing at a rapid rate. And so I appreciate all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like to add, thank you so much to Board Co-Chair Williams, in that branding is everything. So you made great reference to our students knowing exactly what each program has to offer. And we certainly commit to improving that.
Thank you, Dr. Coley. I see Board Member Adam Stafford. Board Member Adam Stafford.
Yes. So I just want to just state that, really what I'm seeing in terms of the proposed plan for the alternative schools is an expansion of credit recovery. And from my understanding from students and the community is that the program as it exists today at CBC is more expansive than just simply credit recovery. And, to, you know, use an online platform for students to basically attain their degree or returning them to their comprehensive high school. I just don't think that that is the best practice for students generally. I mean, in what I've seen in my profession and thinking about how can we support students in an environment where they're thriving. Um, I think that the alternative school the comprehensive school for many of these students is the place of trauma, as we heard from the students that testified, in which they were saying that this school setting was the only setting in which they were able to actually pass their courses. And so for that to be an option, for these students, I think that that is why we're seeing such triggering within the community, because, that is often the source of where a lot of this trauma has come from. Additionally, I just, want to state that, I do think that it would be nice for the expansion of opportunities into some of our great CTE programs. But I'm just trying to understand how we can do a yes and, how can we maintain the school communities that exist, given that this has caused a significant amount of unrest in these communities. How can we maintain the schools and give them access to our CTE programs? Because they have flexible schedules, I'm unclear as to why the program has to be consolidated fully for them to engage in those programs. So I just wanted to leave those comments and just express that, some of the options for these students to matriculate, if we have a method that's working and meeting the needs of students that are often furthest from opportunity, I would say we should hold up what we have done at these schools as a model for other school systems throughout the state and throughout the nation, in something that has worked and been effective. So I just wanted to offer those comments up.
Thank you, Board Member Adam Stafford. Are there any additional questions or comments in reference to school leadership in the budget? Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Coley and her team for your assistance this evening and your responses. And if there are any additional concerns that come up, please put them in writing to the CEO. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to the Division of Human Resources. Board members, do you have any comments relative to the budget? I see Board Member Queen's hand.
Thank you so very much, Madam Chair. I think we had a very important part, you guys. All of it, academics and all is important, but human resources have a lot to do with who we hire, actually to make sure that we're giving customer service and that we also know how to have sympathy, empathy, and compassion for our parents and for our students. So I think, to me, this is really one of the most very important parts when we talk about human resources. Some of the questions I do have today for human resources is, I find that a lot of the schools in my district, and I'm sure it's across the board, some of the schools are still short-staffed teachers. We're still trying to get some substitute teachers. Some schools still don't have, I know my school at John Bain still didn't have a nurse. I heard it just stated that we had 8 vacancies still for mental health. So I'm just wondering if someone in human resources can help me understand. I understand it's been a shortage of teachers and hard trying to get a good qualified teacher. But what is it that needs to be done that we can done to make sure that we do? I know we're trying our best to negotiate good salaries. So I know that is nothing we have anything to do with, that goes with our negotiation team. But I'm just wondering, what different is it can we do to maybe to continue to attract some of the best, but to get these positions filled? And then my next question, and the same will be, is what is it that we can do that maybe human resources to have a program in a partnership with some of our community members, our parents, our retired teachers, or our retired educators who wants to come back, who wants to invest, but unfortunately, it seemed like from what I'm hearing, we're not even giving them the opportunity to.
Dr. Murphy, is it still, Murphy, we owe you a congratulatory message on your recent marriage, but we know you as Dr. Murphy right now, and I don't know what your married name is, so I apologize, but congratulations anyway.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Miller. Still Dr. Murphy right now. And board member Queen, I'm glad you went first because I still got that wedding CD. So, you know, you resonated with all of us with that. So thank you. And thank you for that question. And it's a hard conversation to have when it comes to human resources within a school district. I think sometimes we forget that we have two different types of human resources. We have our staffing of our educators, which, as we all know, our educators are graduating either in December or either in May. And so we are recruiting and calling and having personal conversations with them to say, please come join PGCPS. But at the same time, we're also competing with other large school districts that are in the top 20 in the country. We are surrounded by 5 of those. And so when we go out to compete, we recently went to a job fair last Friday, and there were only 20 candidates. This was an educational job fair, and there were only 20 candidates, and the larger school districts that we compete with, that all of us know, were also there. So you can just imagine when we're sitting at the table and there's one person, and then they're looking at 5 different school districts and saying, why would I come to Prince George's County? We do a wonderful job of selling this amazing school district. And, you know, we do a wonderful job of selling our compensation package. We have some really strong packages. But at the end of the day, it's more about all of us being brand ambassadors and making sure that we are out there saying, please join PGCPS, and this is why. I think you remember we started a campaign about 2 years ago and are continuing it. You know, we have nationally renowned professional development. I want to just definitely give a shout out really quick to board member Sheila Adams Stafford to share with her. We've just been awarded the Award of Excellence from the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. Prince George's County was just recognized for its MBCT program. So I thank Dr. Holden and Dr. Miller for that. But that is the part where we have to say, you know, also we've worked with a lot of you in trying to get affordable housing to say, you know, to bring these incentives to say, this is what makes us different and to come join us. So we're always open. We'll be sharing our updated recruitment staffing guide with you. And we ask you to look at that and say, you know, what is it that we're missing? But it's all about how we present ourselves and saying, come join us. The other side, I think I only have less than a minute to answer, is that there are other industries that we're competing with. So as you know, when we compete with our bus drivers, we're competing with WMATA. We're competing with the bus in Prince George's County. We are competing with private industries. Nursing is a hard to staff area right now. Even hospitals are experiencing that. So, you know, we have different recruitment strategies, and we are building up that other side of the recruitment team to focus in on how we can engage more on that industry side to get people to join Prince George's County Public Schools. And I did it in a...
You cut just in time. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Board member Valentine.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murphy, for all you do and for all you've done in this time. It's been very trying time for all school districts in the country. But I wanted to ask a few questions, particularly as you look at the mission for your office. It talks about a culturally diverse workforce. And so really quickly, can you talk about how this budget will ensure that our teacher core is reflective of our student body, particularly relates to Latino teachers and Latino male teachers? I know there was some grant funding we had in the past to really support them. And so questions around particularly our male educators, but also our Latino male educators. What are we doing to really recruit them, retain them? I know we have tuition reimbursement. I believe we saw something around testing and retaking of certification examinations, which I think is really important. And my second question is around pipelines. You are seeing school districts around the country really create pipelines into local universities and colleges. The fact that we have a program at the community college, we also have strong connections with Bowie State University, University of Maryland. Talk about what your office is doing and how this budget in particular will respond to the best practices around creating pipelines, but also ensuring we have a culturally diverse workforce. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So, one of the things that we're excited about in human resources is having the Office of Equity and Excellence that's under human resources, because that really drives a lot of our work in our making sure that we have a culturally diverse and responsive school district. Dr. Reese is leading the effort to actually revise one of our administrative procedures so that we can really hone in on those skills and make sure that we are addressing that need with our staff, as well as looking at how recruitment plays a part in that. As you know, right before the pandemic, we piloted the Latino administrator program, and it started out wonderful. But unfortunately, when we hit the COVID pandemic, because it was during that year, we were not able to keep up the efforts that we had, and we are going to look at revitalizing that work to really focus in on our Latino and Latina administrators. So that is one of our pipelines that we definitely are focused on for the upcoming school year. We also have our leadership pipelines, which have been in existence and been recognized by various foundations that we continue on. In regards to our teacher pipelines, we have various partnerships, as you said, with Bowie State, the University of Maryland. We are continuing to work with them and trying to engage in different ways to also support them. We had a wonderful conversation. I think Dr. Golson and I met with almost 30 individuals back in October to begin the process of trying to hire them for the July 1 new school year. So we're doing various things and being very intentional about working directly with the universities to see how can we engage candidates earlier and get them to commit to us before they graduate. So these are a couple of things that we're working on, but our recruitment and retention guide will focus more in on those specific questions. And again, we're also open to any suggestions that anyone is welcome to share with us if they see something missing in that.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
Dr. Miller, I do have some more time on my clock, I believe, Ms. Berkeley, about a minute and a half. Dr. Murray, I think one of the beauties of the team that Dr. Golson has put together is that many of you have backgrounds in other school districts, particularly I know you worked in Northern Virginia. How will this budget particularly help us to compete with those in your former colleagues in Northern Virginia? You're right, we're in a very, very competitive market, but we do have those who I believe are the best of the region on our team. Mm-hmm. What are we looking at as we're trying to compete with those in other parts of the region?
Sure. So one of the things that this budget actually looks at is increasing some of the compensation for our employees. That's really what's valuable, as far as when we go out to recruit and be able to compete with others. So that is a portion that we've put in there, even when it comes to our substitutes. Right now, we are currently in negotiations with 2 of our bargaining unions, so more will be coming for that. But Dr. Golson has really made a strategic effort to work with us to say, how can we increase our compensation so that, we increase our marketing efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy.
I have 10 seconds left. You keep your phone down. Just a plug to advertise to educators who we currently have about all the resources around tuition reimbursement and exam taking and retaking. Do we have a surplus of that at the end of the year? Or are we exhausting those resources before the end of the year? Just a quick question.
Oh, we really quick, we exhaust our tuition reimbursement at the end of the year.
Thank you. Your time is up, Board Member Valentine, for the first round. Board Member Mickens-Murray.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Madam Chair. Dr. Murphy, my question is around, do we use student teachers with the partnerships that we have with the universities? Is there such a program in Prince George's County, or would you consider one?
Yes, thank you for that question. We actually have several internship programs. We call them our professional development schools. And we have professional development where we bring on our interns during their internship year. They are not wedded to join us at the end of the year, but we do work very closely with the partnerships and our principals where they're doing their internships to attract them to come and join us. But yes, we have several professional development schools, and we can share that with you in follow-up questions.
Okay, I sort of, maybe I'm old school, but I was looking in my head with student teachers. They used to come into our system and relieve the teachers of some time to give them, I guess, planning time and all of that other stuff that we keep hearing that they need. But I would appreciate anything that you could share with me. Do we do a good job with succession planning? And I'm speaking now of all the offices that we have in the administration. Is there a plan for if someone left us tomorrow, we're training somebody to come behind them?
Mm-hmm. I would have to say, in full transparency, we do have succession planning for the school leadership side of it, where our gap and area of growth is on the central office side. Chief Herbstman and I were in a meeting earlier today regarding one of our central offices, and we're at an urgent point with that office because we don't have that succession plan building program on that side. But that is something that I have started looking at and would hope to start that work.
Okay, and finally, looking at mental health for our teachers and our principals, you have an employee assistance program, I think we do, right?
Yes, we have an employee assistance program. It's through an outside vendor. It is not it's not an inside entity of PGCPS.
Okay, but it's accessible. It's easily accessible for our teachers and our principals who may need some immediate confidential assistance, correct?
Correct. We also have a website, so anyone can go to our pgcps.org benefits page, and on there you will see our resources for the employee assistance program.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Board Member Queen.
Thank you so very much, Madam Chairwoman. Okay, so my next question still goes back to staff vacancies within our school system. When we know that we're short teachers, especially if we have a large number within human resources, what do we do to make sure that we can get staff in there? And then the other thing would be is the requirements. It seems like we have some outdated requirements where, and I'm just going to say it, for instance, with human resources, we were looking for bus drivers, people to drive the bus, and then someone may have had when they were 21 or 22, a DWI, and now they 60, and we still cannot hire them because of DWI they had 40 years ago. Them are outdated requirements for our school system. I would think with us having, being where we are being forgiven of most people of charges that they have had for a while, that we would definitely be forgiven of something that someone had done at a younger age, at a teenage age, or at the age when they really going through, even with life crisis. And here going 30 and 40 years later, we are holding that against them for a school system to be able to get a job when we need bus drivers. So have we looked into that also?
So in regards to the first question about vacancies, so when we are unable to fill a vacancy, we begin to work with school leadership and support specifically in the schools and how we're going to address that. Of course, we reach out to our substitutes and we provide several incentives to our substitutes to help with that. But ultimately, when we're not able to have a substitute, we do again work with school leadership and support and figuring out how we can support the particular class or the particular school until we're able to hire. We are hiring throughout the year, and sometimes we are fortunate to get people in December or January or February. So it really depends. In regards to the requirements, that is actually a very good point. We're always looking at our requirements. There are some standards that are not within our control, and then there are some that are within our control. We're always looking at those, and we run those past our Office of General Counsel because, again, tied to rules and regulations to which we cannot, but we've just recently eased one of our requirements for our food service assistant workers that will be coming out so that we can have a stronger recruitment effort. So we're happy to keep you posted on that, but it's a very good point. Thank you for bringing it up, and we are on it and looking at some of the revisions.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Board Member Valentine, second round.
I just want to follow up particularly on, I'm looking at some of the budget items. It seems like we've not increased them from year to year, but I know that we have. I know Dr. Golson had mentioned the need to cut in some areas. My question is more particular around the Recovery Act funds that came down from the federal level and also money from the state. The idea that how was that money used or being used? And is that any way reflected here? Resources from the national level to respond to COVID era issues around teacher recruitment and staffing?
So there was not a significant increase in our operational and staffing budget. Due to the pandemic, we were able to carry over some of our funding because career fairs were canceled. So we did not see the need in regards to our advertisement and things like that. In regards to the Recovery Act funds, we as an executive leadership team work together to look at those, and we're continuing. I do believe we have a webpage that actually outlines how the funds are being spent. That we can follow up and share those with you. But we're also looking at those fundings in regards to our compensation package for the upcoming school year.
Okay, yeah, I know there are districts around the country that are using those resources in some ways to where they give teacher bonuses, maybe incentives for high quality teachers. I think if those resources are available for us to use, for me, I think, getting into the classroom and particularly in the hands of teachers is incredibly important. And so I'll look forward to receiving that information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any more comments or questions in reference to human resources? No. No further questions. Then this concludes the discussion on the Division of Human Resources. We will now move to the Chief of Staff. The administration's responses to the board members pre-submitted. Oh, I apologize. Mr. Michael Dickerson.
Good evening, I should say.
Good
I've got a
evening.
couple of colleagues here with me as well who will be able to answer some of your questions, but we're certainly prepared to take any questions you have in addition to what we submitted from the Chief of Staff's office.
Okay. Board Member Queen has her hand up.
Oh, I have a bunch of questions. I'm trying to find out, what do y'all do? Why are we spending so much money on these departments? Can you explain it to me a little bit more? I see a lot of money go for communication and community engagement and community partnership, but I would like to see more of this money go toward academics. So can you help me understand why so much money is being spent in this department?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I've worked in 2 other systems and have heard this question before. Folks don't appreciate communications, particularly until they need it. So I'll start there. Board Member Queen, here's the real story behind communications. We've got 208 schools, and quite frankly, I don't think we have enough staff. But the staff we do have do a really good job, a really quality job of highlighting the great things happening in Prince George's County. And I say that as someone who just got here 7-8 months ago. I was in Baltimore County, not quite as big as Prince George's, and we had a much bigger staff, quite frankly, across the board. When I look at all the offices and departments we have in Prince George's compared to that. Having said that, I understand completely that the main work of a school system is about what happens in the classrooms every day. And so that's why I started talking about highlighting and promoting what happens in our schools and in our offices. Our folks do a good job. We've got television services, we've got communications professionals who try to go out and tell these stories, but quite frankly, with 208 schools and the number of offices we have, we just can't do it all. So some of the things you see is an effort for us to add a few more people, particularly at the web services level, where we have just a few people trying to support the number of schools and offices I've previously talked about. We'll continue to do it with the staff we have. I don't think the budget, when you look at a school system this size, for the communications department is quite that big. And then the other offices, and you'll hear from legal and strategic initiatives and partnerships and some of those folks that quite frankly, we're doing what we can with what we have, but I don't look at it as we're overstaffed or spending too much.
So, Mr. Dickerson, I really, really didn't really mean that. So let me tell you, I retired for 28 years from a communication company from Verizon. So I know what communication does. I believe in marketing. I believe in hands-on, but I also believe that one of the things that I found, before I came on the board, Prince George's County Public Schools didn't toot their own horn. We didn't market that much. We didn't communicate. We didn't attract other people. So I just wanted you to be able to explain and say, what do we do? I mean, yeah, we've gotten a whole lot better at marketing. I love the internet advertisements I see on Facebook. I see it on Twitter. I see it on Instagram. At one point, I was beginning to see a Dr. Golson a little bit too much. And I was like, wait a minute, where the board at this? So I've seen the change in the last 3 years. I just wanted you to make sure that you understand when I came to say, so why are we paying all this money for communication? But I do understand that marketing is important. It's a way of doing slogan, like, Wendy's do where the beef. If you don't do certain communications, people will never remember that M&M is good, so Nike is just do it. All of the things are important. So Prince George's County Public School, we got to have our slogan that makes people, that attracts people and want them to be a part of us. And I know the communication department is the department to do that. So thank you so very much.
I appreciate you and the opportunity to tell our story.
Thank you. Board Member Boozer Strother.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller, and thank you to all the chiefs. Even if I didn't ask questions, I received many answers to questions I put in writing ahead of time, and I want to thank you for that. And once again, remind our viewers that that document is available in board docs. I just wanted to, follow up with Board Member Queen on the major change in communications over the last few years since Dr. Goldson became CEO is just so measurable. And I know in the first couple of years, we did a lot of emphasis was on language access and our Office of Translation Interpreting Services. And we see that today with even our board meetings and everywhere throughout the system. And that is incredibly important for equity in our entire system. So I want to thank you for that. And then the measurement of the text and email and the apps like Class Dojo at the elementary level. It's just, it's night. I have to say it's night and day when I started as a parent. And I just want to call that out and thank you for moving into now with the weekly video with Julia in PGCPS in a minute. It's just really changing the tenor of how we communicate. And I'm glad to see how the budget is expanding. And I think it's the right direction. But there are, and one thing I was kind of alluded to in the earlier conversation, there's still communication gap over something really critical in our system, which are these programs that middle and high school students can access as they move through the system. And I continue to meet and talk with parents who by their child's junior year, their high school parent, who never really understood these programs to plan ahead. And I just wanted to find out how the communications department, what could be put in place to help with that and it feels to me like it's at the school building level, starting in elementary school, where parents are shown this pathway to be thinking about year over year till their children reach when they can apply. And I just wanted to ask if you have some ideas about how you might use this increased staffing for us to continue to work on what to me still feels like a gap while we've filled so many other gaps over the last few years. Thank you.
I appreciate the question. Our Associate Superintendent for Communications, Raven Hill, has done a great job with trying to develop a staff that we can then assign to offices and departments. And so we're not there yet, but that's the goal. That's what I've done in other school systems, where you assign a certain staff member to work with individual offices, departments, and schools for that matter. We also look for folks inside the school to act as communications and brand ambassadors who feed information back to us so that we can work with them to highlight the stories happening there. But more pointedly to your question, if we can build enough staff, and I don't want to make it sound like we're looking to hire 20, 30 people. That's not what we're talking about. Just a few more people so that we can assign 4 or 5 offices, departments to each person, that they can work with them directly, so that when they have programs coming out or they have new initiatives coming out, that person can work with them to package it, if you will, and to tell them the best way to get that out to the targeted audience. And so I appreciate the question. That's some of what we're looking at down the road, hopefully not too far down the road, but it's been effective in other places I've worked.
Thank you, Mr. Dickerson. Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Mr. Dickerson, again, welcome to Prince George's County Public Schools. I know from speaking with my colleagues up in Baltimore, they miss you. So I'm glad you're here. And thank you for stepping into this very important role to support Dr. Golson and the school system in general. You spoke on the communications piece, but I want to sort of pivot to the community engagement portion of this budget. I understand what they are accomplishing, and I see all of the increased engagement with the community. Can you speak on, in light of this COVID period, in your budget? I'm good with your budget because there wasn't a great increase in it. How are you looking to work to continue to engage partners in this time in which we are not able to be together in person, to keep that engagement at a good level, to keep our partners involved?
No, I appreciate that question. It's a good question. I think the fact is that we're going to have to start planning for not doing things the way we did prior to the pandemic, right? And so a lot of services are going to have to be offered virtually, because in many cases, and I'll use the town halls as an example, we find that we have more people engaged when they can do it electronically or virtually, right? So 20,000 plus people at a teletown hall with the CEO, that's amazing. That's unheard of. You're lucky to get a couple of dozen when you do these types of things in person. And so I think the goal is to continue to build those type of platforms, working with our partners to say, you don't have to necessarily go out to a school to do what you want to do. We can do it virtually and you'll reach more people. That's really what they care about. And quite frankly, that's what parents and families care about, because then they don't have to worry about who's going to watch my kids while I go down to the school or to the Sasser building for said meeting. They can continue fixing dinner for the kids, getting them to bed, and then log in and still participate. And so I think what you'll see is we'll talk to partners about engaging more in a virtual way, but it's when we can safely come back in person, there's still always those opportunities to do that. And I'll end with this. Some of our communities, we're going to have to do a better effort of going to them, not waiting for people to come to Sasser or come to the school for whatever reason. Sometimes we have to go into the community itself, some of the buildings that they use in their communities, the community centers or what have you. So we've got to start to look at some of those other alternatives to meeting in PGCPS buildings and structures.
Thank you for that. The other hats that I hold, there is lots of interest in supporting our students directly, especially in the nursing program with MedStar. And some of the universities are really interested in partnering with us to help build the pipeline that one of my board members mentioned earlier. And so looking to figure out ways to live and work in COVID is something that is absolutely necessary. And I'm glad that you're thinking about how to incorporate all of the technology that we use, that we've learned during this time in COVID, to continue it into the new way we'll be living with COVID. So I appreciate that. And I'd love to, stay connected on that community partnership, because those partnerships are not just about our engagement with the parents and our stakeholders. It's really about how do we use our programs, and this is a part of communication, I believe too. How do we, one, let people know the programs that we have and the students that we're sending out into the world, but also how can we build our partnerships with folks that can, one, help educate our kids to what the real life look like, and then two, move them into the pipeline of getting them jobs, either directly out of school or, after they go to college. So I appreciate that. And I think your budget is in line with what I would expect for for this year based on the number of staff that you have. And our previous chief of staff sometimes would have to take on, positions that were placeholders. So I didn't see that this time. So thank you for that. That's all that I have, Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Board Member Judy Mickens Murray.
Thank you, Chair Miller.
Board Member Mickens Murray.
Yes, thank you, Chair Miller. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Dickinson, I probably would have given you more money. The reason I'm saying that now, I can't give you more money by myself, so just understand that. But the reason I'm saying that is because we as humans want to be part of a success. If you are able to put together, as my colleague, Ms. Queen said, our story, and with that, highlight our partners as they're interacting with our staff and the outcomes of that. I think that's extremely important to educate the community. And I also think that that will garner us more community engagement. So it's sort of like thinking outside that box, but at the same time, we do a lot of good stuff in Prince George's County that no one ever hears about because it gets drowned out by the other stuff. So your charge, if you accept it, is to tell our story, transparency, all of that, because the good outweighs the bad. We're doing some good things and highlight schools, highlight principals, highlight teachers and students, and bring some students into your office as student aides. Help them to learn and help them to show you how to tell our story in a language that people understand today. So I'm just offering, but I appreciate your office, and I have not, really experienced the results of that. But one of the things that I do appreciate, the CEO gives us a weekly report. I read that weekly report because there's a lot of good stuff in there. If you could just take some of what she puts in that report and build a message around that and put that message out there, because right now it's just coming to us, I think. So I am just saying, there's sort of like a process in place. It just needs to be highlighted just a little bit more. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, listen, mission accepted. I appreciate what you said. Some of what you intimated, we're absolutely doing, and we'll do a better job of communicating it out so people know. But thank you so much for those comments.
Thank you. Board Member Valentine.
Thank you. And Mike, I want to say I appreciate you. You've done such a good job. I've almost forgot the name of your predecessor, Chris something or other. I don't get what his name is.
No one, it's Mr. Rhodes.
No, I'm joking, but there were huge shoes to fill, and I think you've done a great job. I believe your office is an income generator, and that when we have poor communication, parents leave our system, and we have good communication, they come. And that leads to more resources for us to do our work. And for the last 8 years, this is a battle I had even on my first month on the board, hearing teachers just say, how morale was down because of how the community, parents, how they were treated by the community, and how just the value of the teaching profession. And, for many cases, us as board members have had to be cheerleaders. And so really want to, continue to lift you all up, because no matter what we do inside our buildings, if that tree falls in the forest and no one really, is there to hear it, it doesn't make a sound. And the amount of time I have to correct people about what we're doing, the programs we already have, and it's always like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. If I knew that. And so, I just want to be, solution oriented. So I have a recommendation. I believe the CEO, and I don't know if she's on right now, she's probably gonna give me a side eye. I believe in a podcast where you have Dr. Golson interviewing teachers. I think we need to put the face of our system back on the teachers who work so hard and over the last 2 years have gotten such a bad rap. In many ways, just trying to be safe and trying to do best for their kids and their families. And I'm in meetings throughout my day job. It's really just having to balance saying teachers are doing the best they can, but they also have individual skills. And I believe Dr. Golson will be a great host to really say, we're going to do this podcast. We're going to make our educators and our community partners the face of our system, because they're just amazing. I know there's some who can do a lot better, and we know that. But for those who are doing well, and to the point, my early point around recruitment, when we make our educators the face of our system, it's easy to recruit more educators. I think Dr. Mickens said it. You want to be on a winning team. Who are my teammates? Who am I playing with? Who's my quarterback? Who's my point guard? I want to be on her team. I want to play with him. If he's at that school, I'm coming. If for no other reason, I want a classroom right next door, because I can hear from next door the energy reverberates and the energy will come into my classroom. Dr. Golson, I know you got enough on your plate already, but I'll be the first person to log in and hear you talk to our educators and partners and tell their story. Why'd you come to teach here? Tell us about your passion for your subject. Talk about the students who come back to your system and from college and have thanked you and all the things that you all do. That's my plug. And that Chris guy, I forget what he's doing. I think he got a job somewhere, but you're doing a good job, bro. Keep it up. But Dr. Golson, I see you side eye. Come on, give me some rap.
No, actually, it's not a side eye, because actually our communications team really does want to do some podcasts. So it's just time gets away from us. So we will go back and have that conversation again with Ms. Hill. Definitely will execute it.
Thank you, Dr. Golson. Board Member Queen.
Thank you so very much. I'm so glad my colleague suggested that, because my hand was back up again and say you guys need to do more within the school system, with the students, with my principals. Oh my God, I wish I can shout out my principals in District 6. I mean, I got the best principals. I hate to tell you guys, they're doing a great job, even in the midst of COVID and the things that's going on at my school. And if we can only just show that so people can see, I hear so many people say, oh, I don't want to go to certain high schools like my great Central High School because of rumors. But if they knew the great things that were happening at Central High School, if they knew all the students and everyone who achieved that came out of Central High School, that would be so great. If they knew my great principals, like my principal here at Walker Mill Middle School, Principal Cribb, I lived 3 houses from the school, but not even a couple of years ago, it was always fights outside the school. Now she has everything under control. The kids love going to class. If they knew these stories and we could tell our own story, it would be so great. So I was just going to suggest, because I can't shout out as much as I would like to all of my principals, because I have great principals, but wouldn't it be nice if every now and then we can, as a school system, shout out what's going on each and every school and let everyone know all the opportunities. We can put them in a book, which is fine, but in all reality, I tell you guys, we're a diverse society. Everybody don't want to read a newspaper. Everybody don't want to look in a book. Some people just want to listen to you. They listen to the recording. They listen to the CD. They watch a lot of TV. So, some people, you gotta think outside the box and let's reach everybody. So again, thank you for this service. Thank you, Dr. Golson, especially because, when I first came, marketing was my big thing. Marketing. We have to market it outside. And I think we're doing a great job at it. And I know you guys would get even better at it. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Well, that was well said. One thing I'd like to add is that
going in and out.
Excuse me, Dr. Miller.
Get this
Dr. Miller.
Yeah.
You're
I'm not supposed to comment?
No, you are, but you're breaking up. You may be able to turn off your video and get a better reception. You're breaking up. I know what you're saying is very important and we want to hear it, but you're breaking up.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
I guess I just needed to sit closer. I just wanted to inject for the sake of the public that we have a dynamic communications team. And we need to get more out to the in social media as well as to the newsprint media, but the newsprint media is out to sell. And so it tends to override a lot of the great things that are going on in Prince George's County. So I'd like to also suggest that you may have to expand your team. So you'll have some covering putting the negative behind so that we can promote all the great things that are going on. I just needed to put that out there.
We appreciate that.
Mhm. If there are no more questions or discussion relative to the Chief of Staff, thank you, Mr. Dickerson and team. Do all the board members know who are on, know the members of the Chief of Staff's team? If not, since you're here, would you just, because your names are not appearing on the screen, they're not on my screen. So would you just identify yourself quickly?
Good
Michael,
evening.
you can call their names. Okay. Go on.
Good evening, Kyra Libby, Strategics Initiatives Officer.
Good evening, Tammy Turner, General Counsel.
And we mentioned earlier that those are the only two on the call tonight on the
Call, yeah, because I know
we mentioned some of the other folks, Raven Hill.
Right, Raven and
Megan.
Megan, yeah.
Versace.
Yeah, yes. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We have concluded the Chief of Staff. And with that, if there are no more questions, the administration's responses to the board members' pre-submitted questions regarding tonight's FY 2023 operating budget work session are posted on board docs. I'm hoping that everyone is able to join the board for the FY 2023 operating budget public hearing, which is scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. following our adjournment. Again, thank you for participating in our second of 3 budget work sessions for the fiscal year 2023 proposed operating budget. The third and final FY 2023 operating budget work session will be. Please check the PGCPS website for the meeting participation information. And it is now 6:39, and I'm calling for a motion to adjourn this evening's budget meeting.
Madam Chair,
Hearing.
my hand is up.
Board Member Queen.
My hand is up, but before I make that motion, you sure you guys don't want to have that third budget at person at Central High School?
No, it's already set, girl.
Make a motion that we, I tried, so I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? I just want to thank this team. Dr. Golson, your team is the best. That's the best I can say. You are the best. And I thank you. And Tammy, I didn't recognize you tonight. You look different and we know why. But anyway, everybody I'll see you in a few minutes.
At 7 o'clock.
At 7 p.m. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Now,
Okay.
Aisha, will I be able to get back on with the same?
Closed.
Aisha, will I need to use the same link?
You'll need to use the link that you were sent for the second meeting. It'll say FY 2023 budget public hearing.
Okay, let me try that now before I take a break. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna cut off now.
All righty.